Welcome to Podlygamists, the Sisterwives rewatch podcast.
We sit down each week and recap an episode of TLC's longest-running reality show, following the Browns, a Mormon polygamist family originating in Lehi, Utah. I'm Samantha Kaiser.
And I'm Haley Graff.
And this is Podlygamists, Season 2, Episode 1.
This was a great episode. Like, I was just enjoyed about every minute of this episode, I think.
Well, I think, too, because we took a couple weeks off, so it's just so fun to get back to it.
It was a relief to get back to it a little bit. And there's a little bit of fun, a little bit of like intense, like kind of elements going on to it. Just kind of had it all. We see a lot of the kids in this one. Well, not a lot of the kids, but we see more of their, I think, personalities in this one start to come out. I guess just looking back at the episode description and title. This season, it kind of seems like TLC gets a little spicier with the titles.
I'm loving the titles.
A little less literal and a little more like
sassy almost.
Just a little more creative. Like they got a new intern. It's like so this is season 2, episode 1, Browns Out of Hiding. And this description is and this also, by the way, aired March 13th of 2011. So we've jumped ahead a fair amount. 6 months, I guess, since the last air date that we discussed. And then this is the title or the description that TLC provides is, after years of hiding their lifestyle, Cody and his 4 wives are off to New York to appear on national television for the first time as podlygamists. As open polygamists. Back home, the Brown kids embark on their first day at public school. So yeah, it was really action-packed, I felt.
It was. I have more notes than I normally take in a given episode.
Yeah.
Unless I just, went to town on notes today. I don't know, but
I feel like I kind of did go to town, but there's also, because I had a lot to say, there wasn't really filler in this one. It was like a lot of like something's happening here. Right. The show opens on some chaos in the kitchen. There's like, it seems like the whole family's in the kitchen. They're all kind of talking about going to New York, getting ready to go to school. They talk about how the kids call themselves pliglets, which like I get why they think is cute. It seems so like it doesn't evoke like it evokes a very like creepy thing to me for some reason. But yeah, they're proud. They think it's cute. So I guess
Robin's kids are utilizing the word now too.
They're excited about it, and they're very much in this episode too. The amount of times one of Robin's kids calls Cody daddy in this episode, I was like, it took no time. You got very comfortable very quickly.
I really would like to know how often they see their biological dad. Like, I mean, maybe he really just is not in the picture, but it seems so odd to just so quickly be like, yep, dad.
Yeah. I wondered that too. He must not be around a lot. And if he is, I don't know. It's strange. But I guess,
I don't know.
I guess they do call the mom's mom.
Yeah.
Although they do say my mom if it's a specific one usually. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe it's less of a stigma in this culture just because there's so many parents in the mix. But it was weird to me.
I found it a little weird too.
So they're getting ready to go on the Today Show, their first public appearance, and really they're not just going on the Today Show; they're doing like a whole press tour.
Yeah, I mean, because they go on
like Joy Behar. Yeah, that was weird.
They're on there too, I think, but
there was a man interviewing them at one point. I don't know what show that was for.
Probably someone known more in 2011, but
11.
It was 11 years ago now, so who knows?
Yeah. So it was a big. I mean, they focus on the Today Show, but they did a whole junket. Like I think probably for the premiere of the show, but also for them, it also meant coming out as like publicly as with their lifestyle too. So kind of it was like a press tour, but more complicated because of the fact that they're not just airing their regular old TV show. It's like a whole announcement.
Well, and combined with that then too is that they're sending all the kids to public school. So, and they're now letting them know like, okay, so and so are in the same class and they're not the same mom, but they are brothers and sisters, whatever.
Mhm.
And so they're coming out basically to the teachers and school that they're polygamists, and they made like a whole big deal of writing like the permission forms of like who can pick up who
Mhm.
from school. And Janelle's like, I'm just still gonna call the other wives their aunts like I always have. I don't care. And we were all like,
Yeah.
we're a little bit offended that she wasn't going to use that as to make a stance and be like, no, we are
Yeah.
polygamists.
Well, and her thing was like they're just wondering who's picking the kids up from school. They don't really care the relationship. Like it doesn't. This isn't really.
Doesn't matter. Like,
I mean, I don't need to like shake things up just for the sake of shaking things up because they need to know who's picking my
yep,
kids up, and
practical as always.
yeah, it was just fun. It was cute because they were all kind of like, I changed all the names to other mom or
This feels
whatever,
liberating. And
and
Janelle's like, I don't
yeah,
care about that. This is whatever.
I'm gonna I'm gonna continue to fill them out the way I have, but
You know, the thing is, they'll find out eventually, though, with like Christine's kids and Robin's kids being there.
yeah,
They'll
yeah.
figure it out whether or not Janelle puts aunts or moms on the form.
They kind of talk about like the choice to send the kids to school, public school, uh, and I thought that was an interesting conversation. Cody talks about, I think that they're on the couch during like the confessional thing, and he's saying that when he went to school, they were taught tolerance, they were taught civil right, or they were taught civil rights and the concepts of those things, but now tolerance is taught, and not only taught but like moralized in a way that wasn't then, and I just thought that was very interesting uh, to like delineate those two kind of concepts. I never really thought of it that way, but it makes sense, and even 2011, I bet even in those last 10 years since that has aired or that since that happened, I feel like it's even more so because like think of bullying culture and that kind of stuff, how hard we come down on those things in the last,
Well,
I don't know, since I've been in school.
even, I mean, as far as marriage rights go, yeah, polygamy still isn't legal, but like gay marriage was not legal in 2011. You know, I mean, things have changed significantly in the last decade as far as our culture goes and tolerance and everything. So, yeah, I mean, it's significant.
Well, the funny thing is today we don't even really call it tolerance. We like tolerance isn't enough
No,
now,
I know.
right? Like if you say I tolerate a gay couple, people look at
Like
you
you're bigoted then.
sideways like, excuse you, you tolerate them.
Yeah.
It's more like accept you. Beyond that is acceptance the next stage. I don't know, it's a different, we're even beyond that now.
I feel like it may be even a little bit beyond acceptance. It has to be like bare minimum, I think, acceptance at this
Yeah,
point. Like tolerance is beneath that, I'd say.
for sure. I just think it's funny that they're so grateful for the
Yeah.
tolerance at this phase, and now I'm like, tolerance seems almost like that term almost seems passive aggressive
I know if
now.
you were to say that today, people would probably be like, you're kind of
Yeah,
an asshole. Like
yeah, it's a little
yeah,
outdated in the last 11
yeah.
years, so I don't know, I found that kind of, it made me think about it. It made me grateful for those kind of changes too, to like see the way that impacts their comfort level and just sending their kids to public school. By the
Mhm.
way, they're not trying to send them to Catholic school or whatever. They just want them to be able to go to public school and feel safe and
Yeah.
secure. And so I just, I don't know why that piece of this episode really like made me think a lot. I don't.
Well, I think too. I mean, because they were so worried about, like Janelle had said, she's like worried what the kids would be exposed to, and Christine had said how nobody, when she went to school, nobody knew that she was from a polygamous family, but people did know that her brothers and sisters were, and they were bullied for it. And so then they're just like
Mhm.
worried that they were going to have trouble making friends and stuff. And I don't know necessarily, especially for younger kids, that they would understand what polygamy means. For the kids to be like, "Oh, I'm a polygamous family," and like Robin was saying, her daughter said like she told her new friend that she was a polygamist, and she was like, "Okay," and they went back to playing. And I'm like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
that doesn't really mean much to little kids. They probably." If they're not in the culture or anything, they probably don't know what that means. Like, okay, sure, whatever. Like, let's continue on playing at recess. It's,
Mhm.
obviously the adults and teachers, I think that you have to worry
Yes.
more about, and
Well, the adults, the parents of those kids, like sure the kid can hear that and be like, okay, don't know that word, moving on. But they go home and go say, Aurora's mom's a polygamist, and then they say, don't play with Aurora. Like that, I think that's kind of the concern, which is still legitimate. Like, and that's kind of where that tolerance thing. It's like and Christine's worried, but not only about them being teased, but about their ability to make friends and socialize. Like that's that part. Like that's not tolerance to for the kids to be like polite to you at school is one thing, but to be invited to the birthday party and that kind of stuff is like this part that I think Christine is still like kind of can't move. She's not quite relaxed in that concern
And I
yet.
mean, I don't blame her. I feel like I would be exactly the same way, worrying.
Mm,
Like, I just want my kid to go to school and fit in and have a good time and just be there to learn and make friends. Like, and again, like they'll probably make friends at least initially, but yeah, as far as being invited to like the birthday parties and stuff and being included once parents find out, that's the worry.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you like to think the way that this is more in their culture. I don't know if that makes it more causes more
Like, is it better or
um
worse that, yeah.
yeah, cuz people understand what it is more and they have background on some bad probably some bad instances of polygamy and those they reference like the insurance fraud and it's not even just like you Cody are a dog for having all these women. It's these people are known it's like they're discriminated against for because there's known insurance fraud and known welfare fraud and like all those kind of things that they do talk about under the banner of heaven how much government assistance goes towards like these like fraudulent kind of families.
Mm,
They're not fraudulent families but they kind of work the
some are.
system just to suit
Yeah.
them. Or that's what they're known for. I mean, who knows? That could be a stereotype, and they probably need a lot of that assistance because there's a lot of mouths to
Yeah.
feed. But but that's kind of anyways. That seems to be a local concern of like the way that there's stereotypes against people who are lazy, who use the system. The polygamists, they are the ones who are using the system and using our tax dollars. I could see that being the rhetoric in the area. Maybe that makes things.
Utah is a very conservative state too, and I mean conservatives
Mhm.
are obviously fiscally conservative. That's the line of thinking. So I mean anyone that's using the system or benefiting from the system that maybe shouldn't be, that is going to be a sticking point. Like that is going to be
Yeah,
something that makes them angry.
yeah. Yeah, I so that I imagine it must cause more stigma than if they showed up in my town and said, "Yeah, I've got 3 moms." Some parents might be like, "What the hell?" But most would be like, "Okay, I get
I
that's
think the
unusual,
biggest
but like,
reaction I'd have would be like, okay, so your dad's like a player then, like like
yeah,
that would
yeah."
be more. I wouldn't think about.
Like dirty jokes almost would be the biggest
Yeah,
issue there. Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
would not think of like cheating the system or anything. I wouldn't. That would never.
No, that wouldn't cross my
Yeah,
mind. I had no idea that that was a thing until I read Under the
same.
Banner, you know? So anyways, just a lot of, like, concern it's not the surface concerns that I first would think of when you say sending the kids to school, like, "Oh, they're gonna say make fun of you for having 4 moms," or whatever, some weird
Hmm.
but it's, like, deeper than that in this, like, setting.
Yeah, and I think us like taking the time to learn more of the history with reading the book and everything, it does make
Yeah,
you understand why they've been so afraid to
for
be
sure.
themselves in public.
The, overall, I think the parents, especially Cody's excited to send him to school, which I thought was, like, a sweet thing to for them to have.
I think letting the kids, because he was saying, all the kids calling themselves polyglots, and he's like, but you guys personally, you aren't polygamists yet, or you're
Yeah.
not. You're just
One of the girls yeah, he said that too. "You're just a little girl, you're
yeah,
not a
you're just a
polygamist."
normal kid. Like your parents happen to be polygamous, but you're a kid. You know.
Mhm. Yeah. It was funny, just this little it was just a little snippet, but there's a part where they're talking to Aurora, little baby Aurora, and she's got this look on her face that I wrote, "Aurora is just so Aurora." She's nervous, she says, "I might lose friends," and she's just kind of, like, looking into the distance with this, like, little bit of
Like a
feet
middle
like,
distance, like
this just she could just see all the doom and gloom, like, wheels churning, because that's still she's an anxious child like, she's just an anxious girl, like,
yeah.
even today, and I remember her graduating during the pandemic and in more recent seasons, obviously, and she goes, "We all thought 2020 was the coolest, and then it wasn't." And you know what I mean? She's just like a little. She feels deeply, and she's definitely a worrier. And it was just so funny to see that on that little girl's face, that same girl that we
I
still know.
know.
Yeah, I mean,
I just
I
think
feel for her,
she's
but
too young to feel that way already. Like,
I maybe might lose a couple friends, and they're
and
just
you're like,
like,
oh, what will
"Honey."
that mean? Like, no. Oh, poor
It
sweetie.
was, yeah. I mean, she turns out, spoiler, like she does make friends and stuff, and it was just cute. This is they go to over the emergency contacts, which we kind of talked about. Christine,
Christine's kind of empty nesting it during the day.
yeah, yeah, she's just got little Truly, and it really shows it really shows why their relationship is the way it is, because her and Truly to this day, it's happy birthday Truly. We're recording on Truly's, I think, 12th birthday. We decided
Birthday
it
for
was.
Truly.
Her and Christine are like the dynamic duo in the family. I feel like always together. They're always posting. Um, it's very sweet, and I think she was the last baby in Christine's house, and she got all the loving
Mhm.
from her. I think after all the kids went to public
Right.
school.
I happen to just love seeing baby Truly all the time because, again, like we've said, when she was first born, that you can tell immediately that baby was Truly. Like she looks like exactly like a baby Truly. I mean, she just has always kind of looked away, and I just love how starkly bald she is. I mean,
She stays bald for a long time too. Like
as a child, I was bald or very short hair till I was like 3. So I mean, I get it, Truly. But it's just very funny. Like,
yeah, she looks like she shaves her head
mhm.
bald baby.
She doesn't
Like,
even have like
but
peach fuzz. It's just bald.
no, just bald. But yeah, she definitely. I mean, the Browns all kind of have a little bit of like a baby face thing, but she really
Yeah.
does. Like, you could pick her out of a
Yeah.
lineup and know that was truly.
So
Um,
happy birthday to Truly. I hope you have an
Happy
awesome
birthday, Truly. We saw you born.
day.
Now we're celebrating your 12th
Yeah.
birthday. They kind of cut over, like they talk about how much everyone goes to Christine for the food and that kind of thing. It just points to her like she's the stay at home, even though they're all, well, Mary's kind of a stay at home as well. She's kind of she's like the stay at home mom
Right.
of the family, the mom of the family, like period, kind
Yeah.
of. But then the image of all those kids rushing off the school bus too at the same stop. I'm like, this bus driver,
Probably like
she's just like, all right, keep them coming. Like, we got every Savannah.
count them
Like,
all. Like, did we get all of
did
them?
we get everybody? It was just cute. And then little like baby Gabe is very
Oh, when
cute.
he was hugging Janelle goodbye, before school, I was
Yeah,
like, oh, he looks so adorable.
that's the exact same image I had too. I'm like, you grew up to be such a little shit, but you are a cutie
Started off
pie.
as such a little cutie. Also, who was really cute was Brianna when Robin went to wake her up. I was like, oh, my heart,
Mhm.
she's so adorable waking her up.
Yeah, yeah. When she's like rolling around, just to all of
Her
her
little
little.
sleepy face. Yeah.
She
So
is a
cute.
cutie. Um, I think ice blocking is that our next
That's what I
activity.
have.
This again, I don't remember some of these early episodes. I don't remember this at all. This is my first exposure to ice blocking. Uh, Crazy concept.
I was shocked that it worked.
Yeah, yeah, they were
I was
flying
really
at some point.
skeptical. So basically, they take a block of ice, go to a steep hill, sit on the block of ice, and then someone like pushes them, and they basically are like sledding down the hill on this block of ice, but just over grass. And I did not expect it to work. I was like, okay, that's going to be super lame. They're going to skid like a foot or something.
Yeah,
Nope, they're sliding down the hill at a pretty good clip there.
yeah. Truly, I didn't mean to say truly. They're like they really are cruising, and part of me is like, where are you getting blocks of ice? Where does one get a block? I've never seen a block of ice sold.
I've seen like bags of ice, like
Yeah,
gas station.
that's what I was picturing. I thought, okay, we're gonna go to the Quick Trip or the gas station and get a 5 pound, 10 pound
Yeah.
bag of ice, whatever they sell them in, and like sit on that. But it was like a true block.
And so, I mean, this is what did we decide? It's like a Mormon or like out west kind of
Well,
thing.
so the way the Browns talk about it, they act as if this is like a Mormon pastime. They reference Joe Smith. They say Joe Smith was an ice blocker. I think he's joking because that makes no sense.
It would be
Unless it started in like Illinois when there was actually ice, but
like in the
in
winter,
Utah,
maybe.
where
Like,
I can imagine like if they live on a lake and they're going, have you seen that footage of like they'd go out with a horse-drawn thing and like cut out chunks of ice and then haul it back
mhm.
and they use it to like store things.
Yeah.
But like that's not a thing in Utah, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, at least not that I'm aware of.
The frozen lakes.
I don't think so. But
So I don't think Joe Smith was wasting ice on sledding it down the hill. If I had
it
to
would be an
guess.
interesting use for ice when ice wasn't as common back then.
Yeah, and a hobby for an adult man in the
Oh my god, the
1800s.
image.
He's supposedly a large guy, like a pretty big, like robust guy, like yee down the hill on a chunk of ice. I don't know, could be. It wouldn't shock me.
But they're saying it's like it's good, clean fun, you know? It keeps the kids out of trouble. Like, so instead of partying, they're just ice blocking.
I wrote that down. I said I'm wondering what they think the alternative to ice blocking is for these kids, like crack.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, is it either ice
is,
blocking or crack? Is it like it's one of the two?
is ice blocking? It's just ice blocking though that keeps them off the streets. Like specifically, it was just like the weird. I was confused. It keeps kids out. Keeps kids. Keep them busy. Keep them blah blah blah.
Literally
Like
no other activity. Like they couldn't just go play basketball at the park. No, you have to slide
no.
down the hill on a block of ice.
Yeah, that was the whole conversation. I was like trying to draw the line of like ice block, keep them off the streets. Like it was just such a
Like if
weird
we don't do the ice blocking, they're gonna be in a gang or something. So
in like their rural Utah town. I'm like, I'm sure there's so much trouble these Mormon kids can get into in their Mormon community with the
Mormon
okay.
kids.
I'd love to have a deeper conversation about that thought process.
Can you imagine being at the park and this group of like 3 vans
Yes.
pulls up and there's like 20 people and then they roll out with blocks of ice
And their blocks
sledding down the hill during the middle of the day.
Kids and adults all alike, just unloading out of these vehicles. I was picturing that too. I'm like, I want to see the faces of the
I know. I really wanted the reaction of the witnesses of this.
I tried to do a Google about this ice blocking just to see, like, because what I want to know is, did Joseph Smith really invent this? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And there was no court. I found no information connecting it specifically to Mormons, but that it is a thing out west.
Maybe it's on the golden plates.
They slid the golden plates. They couldn't find them because they got lodged in a hill after a real long day of ice / gold plate blocking down the hill. They got left behind. They were just so tuckered out after their day of play, and then I don't know. Then we kind of, I think the adults all embark on their trip to New York.
Yeah, I think so. Well, and Cody says he thinks, so they're going to New York to do like their coming out, so to speak, but he thinks that being transparent makes the polygamists them seem less threatening to the rest of America, was what he said.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, on the flip side, I think it's safer for their community to be transparent, so then there isn't all of the shady, secretive abuse that we've talked about in previous weeks here with
for sure
and shit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, transparency across the board would be great for the community, and I see why they say it feels like it makes them and their kids safer, because like there's nothing to hold against them, I guess, like if anything were to happen. I don't know, but Logan kind of says in a very like Cody, he's such a little Cody, kind of says to the camera, we're deciding if we're going to be pushed off the cliff or jump off the cliff, and I guess we're going to jump. So I guess I don't know if they're really being backed into a corner in the way that they're kind of like insinuating that they were, but the
only way I think they were backed into a corner is their decision to be on a reality show in the first place. But I mean, they also made that decision, I think, for the same reason as they're doing this press junket, to be public about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just kind of an interesting, like, just that kind of high intensity that they kind of always live by. Every situation is like life or death, and kind of I'm not dissing them for doing it at all. I think it's like noble, but it definitely puts a lot of pressure on the family, especially the moms in this episode at least.
Definitely did.
We see the grandmas descend upon the house. Grandma Cheryl shows up, who has passed away in the last year. Janelle's mom, Cheryl. I believe Cody's mom's showing up. Christine's mom is gonna be there. I'm not sure who else. They said they have a troop of grandmas descending upon them to care for the kids while they're all out of town. And it didn't even occur to me until they said that how they're leaving behind how many kids, and all the adults are going to be in New York City. That's got to be a big undertaking.
Yeah, I would be personally quite worried as one of the. I mean, not with the grandmas there, but like I wouldn't want to leave otherwise unless you had backup. Like you can't expect the older kids to just hold down the fort. Like they're not.
Well, the older kids are like 16.
Yeah,
They're not. They're not like.
they're not old enough yet to watch that
Yeah.
many other kids.
Yeah. And it didn't occur to me till later when they bring it up too that them going away for this press junket means that they're not going to be there when the world finds out about their family. So the kids are home across the entire country as this kind of ball is dropping.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of pressure too. And I didn't even think about it till Cody said we kind of got to get home to like support these kids now that we've done this.
I know, because I mean, whether or not you want it, there is going to be some fallout from it. So,
it seems like a summary of the emotions I wrote is that it's freeing and it's scary. I think Robin maybe said that, but I think that kind of sums it up for how everybody's kind of feeling.
well, Robin was, like, I forget. Wow, this is my short memory. But Robin, she grew up in the culture, but then her first marriage, it was just, single, regular marriage, that they didn't have any plural wives or anything. So, I mean, her, at least as an adult, hasn't had anything really to hide until now. You know.
She says that earlier that her kids are now children of polygamists, and they weren't.
Yeah.
Like overnight, they weren't born that way or grew up that way. It's just like an overnight thing, which is just another kind of like crazy thing to kind of wrap your head around. That overnight they became polygamous children or polyglets as they call themselves. Now, oh, they have some really fun, like jazzy kind of James Bond music as they're landing in New York, as if they're doing some kind of mission. That's kind of an interesting choice. I don't have much else to say about that. It was just weird.
I thought it was cute, like their excitement of being in the big city and stuff. I mean, I don't know that any of them have been to New York. Robin certainly not, because she was completely in awe of everything, and them just being like, Times Square is amazing. It was just cute.
You gotta go to Central Park. It was just like all the things that every single person says. Like the energy, Times Square, Central Park. It's like, yep. Did you see the Statue of Liberty? Yeah. Yeah, it was very sincere and very wholesome. Their excitement.
Just small town people heading to the big city.
Cody saying just how he loves New York, and I thought that was a weird wasn't really like the thing I expected him to say, I suppose, but it was cute overall. They do their interview and they talk about how they're on the Today Show, so excited to meet the Meredith. I don't know I don't watch the Today Show, but anyways, they're really excited about it. And Mary talks about having gone to the bathroom and coming back with her fly down, which was hilarious and very another very wholesome
Well, first because she's like, I had been drinking water.
That I thought the same. I had been drinking a lot of water. It was like,
were they giving you mimosas and you were drinking?
Yeah.
She's like, well, the nerves. See, just knock it on back.
I was just slamming back those waters. I couldn't help it. I had to go. It was just so it was again very, very just wholesome. I think that's what we could call this whole trip. It's just wholesome.
But man, Cody's interviewing skills left a little bit to be desired there.
He's real starstruck or something, because you already been on this show for a season,
and he loves being on camera and stuff. He's hamming it up all the time. So it was weird to see him clam up on
just slackjaw. Yeah, just It was the total comedy bit of what you're just frozen. And he goes, shoot.
They're like, why did you choose polygamy? And he goes, silence for a bit, and then he's like, oh shoot, it was faith-based.
It was just surprising to see that side of him, I think.
I was just
where he's just not in
Cody, you're doing this to so people have a better impression of you. I think you'd at least want to have an answer prepared.
Yeah. It was. I mean, he was stunned. I've been there,
Yeah,
so
I mean,
it's
we've
just
all been
funny.
there, I think, but oh,
It was. Yeah, it was like. That's why I asked you because you looked up the full interview, and I was like, is it worth watching? Because this clip does not entice me to want. It's hard. That was hard for me to watch. I almost fast forwarded through the
it was so
silence.
cringy. I mean, like I looked it up on YouTube. It wasn't as bad on YouTube watching it live.
Okay.
Like the pause didn't seem as dramatic. Maybe watching it, and
Okay.
maybe they edited it too. I don't know, but it
Hmm.
wasn't bad, and it was interesting to watch the whole segment with them with Meredith or whatever on the Today Show. And I mean, they didn't really even answer though the polygamy question. Like Janelle jumped in eventually and was like, "It's about faith, it's about family and overcoming our faults." And Meredith's like, "But okay, but specifically though, what does the faith say like as the reason for it?" Which we have asked as well. And then Cody
Yes.
literally goes, "It's an accelerated personal development." And that was kind of all. And I was like, I guess I'll just keep waiting for an answer on this one. But
So this is our white whale because man, nobody wants to answer this question.
yeah,
It's not just us.
yeah. Like, so, I mean, others are wondering too. I'm
Yeah.
hoping eventually we'll get a more concrete answer, but so far,
Under the banner didn't even you if anything he's an unbiased source. You would have thought they would have dipped their toe into that.
yeah, we got
I'm just like what?
no concrete answer. We're just, I'll wait. It's fine.
That's the eternal question of this
Yep.
podcast is what
Maybe that's our
why
true goal of this podcast is to figure out the why and
it
how
is.
of polygamy.
Man, what I wouldn't give.
Mhm.
Okay, well we have a mission,
Yep.
I guess. They again, they are on some kind of Joy Behar only show. I have only ever known her on The View, so that was like a weird.
Yeah, apparently she had I don't know if it was like a nighttime show or like a Larry
Yeah,
King kind of thing. That's what it sort of looked like.
yeah. I don't know. I was unfamiliar, but it was kind of a weird juxtaposition to have Joy Behar on the same at the same table as the Brown family. I don't
Well,
know
and then she's
why,
like, "Could I be a fifth wife?"
and they're just like nervous laughter.
Hilarious joy.
They're doing their little photo shoot in the park. We kind of went over that. How Mary's their their photographer.
That's a
I
photographer
guess.
Mary in Central Park.
Yeah. She's like giving them poses and I don't know, it was this Mary is such a different Mary. I can't put my finger on like what I call it, just naive. She just seems very like and I mean that in just like an innocent way. Like again, wholesome. She's just a much sillier, lighter, softer
I
person than
I
she
think it's the
is.
same way that Cody is. I think it's less jaded.
Yeah.
And it's just being younger, not having the experiences, the negative experiences that have hardened them a bit maybe. I don't know.
Mhm.
But it does seem like a different person than what we see present day.
Yeah. She just seems like she seems 100 years younger. Not that she's so old now. It's so
Yeah.
weird to see this side, this very involved side of her too, because she's kind of on her own. She kind of like is an individual within her family right now, current day, from what we've seen.
Yeah.
And at this time, she's very in with the adults. They're all a crew. They're not living their separate lives as much.
Yeah. I mean,
The one roof probably helps that, I suppose.
it's gonna
But
I mean, that I think that'll be kind of a fascinating evolution that we see of her, especially. I mean, her and Christine, I think I'm the most interested to see how things change
yeah,
for obvious reasons, but
yeah.
I think they'll have probably the biggest divergence from who they were to who they are now, present
Hmm.
day.
Yeah, I mean, once they get to Vegas, is kind of when that I guess we'll be curious. I'll be curious to see when that transition kind of starts to happen in front of us.
Right.
So they kind of arrive home. They kind of rush home then after their press tour to support their kids through. And I didn't even think. I just didn't even. I guess I just didn't think about it. All the where there's media and where there's interviews in the last 15 years, there's an online person commenting and blogging and all those things about what's going
Mhm.
on, whatever their clips are, and they told the kids to stay off the blogs, to do all this stuff, and they get home to Madison, who's like talking about how she couldn't stay off the internet, she had to see, and then it started to get so like she just decided it wasn't worth it because it was so negative, and that just made me so sad. Like their first impression, because now they're so, I'm sure, like, used to dealing with that. They've been dealing with it for 15 years or 12 years, and they're grown adults, the oldest kids are. But at this time, they're just like, it's just got to be so, I can't even imagine like that experience of like, everyone has seen my family and what their deal is now, and now everyone has an opinion, and I can read it and I can access it. Yeah, it was. I mean, they've now become the target of a bigamy investigation.
Mm.
So that just kind of means they're starting to look into them more. It's not like they kind of say like no charges are being brought. Like, they're just, people are upset that they seem to be like shoving their lifestyle in the face of the government or whoever, you know what
And
I
again,
mean?
like
Like,
they repeated, they're like, this isn't, an FU to the government. This is us just wanting to be like living our lives as we are and not and showing you that we're not doing anything shady. We're just a family that's not traditional.
yeah. Yeah, I could just see why, because in maybe especially in Utah where there's already like feelings about their lifestyle
Yeah.
one way or the other, that like they're like, we've let you slide and now you're just shoving, now you're just like giving us the big middle
Yeah.
finger, that kind of thing. And so I could see where there's like concerned citizens calling in or some kind of stuff like that. But there's paparazzi showing up, there's press showing up, there's people watching them, and the kids are like noticing it through the
That part
windows.
was really I found it really scary. Like they have people filming them outside their house and taking pictures. And like, I mean, they do this whole thing where Mary takes a couple of the older kids and does like this diversion of leaving with them. So then when the bus comes with the younger kids, if the younger kids aren't surrounded by paparazzi or having photos taken. And I just was like, that's so scary to be like, your home is your sanctuary. Like it should be, not everyone has this unfortunately, but it should be the place where you feel safest. And so then to have someone disrupting that, and, like, they even had him, like, coming up to the door and stuff, and I was like, "Is this not I mean, could they not be like, 'Hey, this is stalking, like, this is harassment kinda deal?'" I mean, and I know that this time think of, like, all the celebrities in, like, the 2008 to 2010 era, how much they were being bothered by paparazzi and stuff, that this was very, like, of the time shit that was being done. I just how is that allowed? Nowadays, like, I know there's still paparazzi and stuff, but my god, it just seems so like a violation of anyone's rights.
Yeah. Yeah, that part really, like, I was kind of getting a little like just choked up just thinking about like little Savannah like looking out the window and being like, there's guys on the lawn and
You
like
can't
that
just
kind of
run out in
stuff.
the
It
front
just is
yard and
like,
play like normal because there's a freaking
yeah.
paparazzi taking pictures of you like a creep? Like,
And just the idea of the kids getting off the school bus to be like surrounded or getting their pictures taken and being probably asking them like rude or intruding questions and that kind of stuff, and like how for a little kiddo that would be so like scary. Yeah, it made me sad. It just makes me so mad. Like, I don't understand how a person can justify that like action of being the paparazzi or the media who is like clearly invading, disturbing. They're not criminals, they're not, there's a family of just a lot of children running around. Like, this is not the time and place to do
right.
this.
I mean,
It's just hard.
it's bad enough doing it to the adults, and, like, yes, they are on a reality show and stuff, but, like, they're inviting the cameras at a certain time. They're not just there all the time filming every second of their lives when they're not allowed to. So, I mean, it's way worse when you're harassing or children or being trying to get pictures of children. Like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, that was hard to watch. And the fact of them having to go over like the safety too of like every when they had to circle up the kids and get to a safety meeting with them to like so they understand like these people will know your name, but they are not your friends. Like, you have to like, it's like a stranger danger, but like elevated, because there are people who know their names who are going to try to like seem friendly to them and get information out of them and try to find some kind of story or
What if
whatever.
someone was like,
It's just
"Hey, little Savannah, I know your name. Your mom told me to pick you up from school." I
exactly.
mean, that's scary. Like,
That's exactly the scenario of like that they teach you in school, that like you need to have a password or whatever.
yeah,
Like, that kind of, I don't know if you learned that too. Yeah, all the concerns that are like maybe the parents hadn't really considered initially. I'm sure they thought through as much as they could, but you just can't even predict all of the things that would happen as a result of this. So
right.
the just I can imagine like the fear and like anxiety the parents are having, and they all kind of go around and I hope if I'm skipping ahead, let me know. But they kind of like ask everybody or the parents all kind of volunteer like, would you still do now after this has all happened? Would you still have done this? And they all say yeah. They say Mary says she kind of soul searches about it, but she says she's crying and she says yes, I would still do this for the hope of change. Janelle says yes, she's tired of being afraid. Robin says yes, she doesn't want her kids and grandkids to be discriminated against or live in fear. And then Christine says, I don't know. And like, I can't fault her for it.
Because I was thinking that the whole time, like I wrote before they had that whole conversation, I just wrote, I don't know if I could have my kids in the public eye like that. I can make the choices that I can make for me and deal with them, even if it's the wrong choice. Like that's my bad or whatever. But I would, it means so much more when it's your kid, and I know they're trying to do it on behalf of their kids and trying to do what is best for them, and I understand why. But it f's up a lot of stuff for a while for their kids to have to learn how to adjust to
Hmm.
being in the public eye like that.
Yeah, it is hard. It's like it's almost like it's a gamble. They're trying to do something that will improve their kids' lives and all the future generations of people in their culture. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to like say that you are potentially sacrificing these 16 kids for the hope of like it improving their lives in the long run. But also,
Um,
we can kind of say so far so good. Like the kids are doing really well and they're really like well adjusted people. The one thing I was thinking about is if we ever get paid and on the line or any of the kids who want to talk to us, I would love to know this time about this time.
I would
Yeah.
love to, yeah, what they experienced, that initial
Yeah.
shock of the publicity and
As a little kid,
openness.
like what they felt about the people on the lawn and that kind of stuff. Because only I think Peyton might be the like youngest we could even ask that question because otherwise they
Yeah.
might be too little. I don't know. I guess Savannah was pretty aware of what was going on too, but yeah,
Well, I think, yeah, because I think what Peyton's got to be like 9, maybe, I don't know, 9 or 10,
up.
something
He's
like
like
that.
23 right now, so yeah, he would have been like 10 or 11.
Okay. 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 So yeah, I mean, probably around that age, you would remember fairly well, I think. But yeah, any younger, I mean, I don't know if you would necessarily kind of equate what it means. Like,
Yeah.
it would just be sort of like a weird thing
Yep.
that happened, but you wouldn't understand like the why of it as
And
much.
he could they could have a conversation with their parents and siblings about what was going on and feel like they could process it more, maybe to the point where they would have some like clear memories and like feelings about what. Yeah, I would be curious to know what that this trap.
I would love to
Mhm.
know. That would, I mean, that's such a unique experience for them and this family in particular. I mean, it's enough for them to like go public in their community, but to go public nationally, and it's like the first season, being on TLC and stuff. I don't know what their like viewership or anything was. I mean, clearly like thousands of people were watching at the very least, maybe even million, couple, who knows? I don't know the ratings, whatever. But then to be on the Today Show that like most of America at least sees like highlights of once in a while, a daytime talk show, morning show. So that, I mean, opens you up to more than just the TLC audience.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. And even if those people don't go on to like watch their show, they got and they saw this family who is daring to live this lifestyle, and if especially if you're watching the Today Show, I'm gonna say you're probably a
X?
Gen Xer at the youngest. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah, because like you're a millennial too, right?
barely like it's like it depends on who you ask about where the years cut off, but yeah.
Okay, so I mean, but millennial and Gen Z wouldn't really watch the Today Shows.
No,
That is more like people who are currently in their like
I mean
40s
I
and
was
older, I
essentially
think.
like Peyton's age, or a couple years old. I was like a tween at that time, so like yeah, I definitely was certainly not watching the Today Show. So yeah,
I mean, I was in college and not home or anything to watch the Today Show during that time. So
yeah. So anyway, yeah, just the audience too, not exactly like the most open minded. Um, and probably some keyboard warriors in there too. So I can only imagine. And this was a time, kind of like you said, this was like maybe coming off of like that peak of paparazzi culture. But that was a time when everybody felt like they could say anything they wanted about anybody if they were in the public eye. Like you look at Britney and you look at like all of anybody. I mean, Britney's a high profile situation.
Lindsay
Yeah,
Lohan, and
people thought they could say anything about anyone.
we've seen now the documentaries of like Britney where they're like where she's like 17 and they're like, "Are you a virgin?" And
Yeah,
it's like, wow, she
yeah.
is a minor. Well, at first off, who are you to ask anyone you just met that? That's not your
Asking
business.
her bra size, or if someone gains weight, it's like on the cover of the magazine. Like
I
I'm
mean,
not.
think of like all the like Us Weekly, In Touch
Yeah,
magazine, you know,
yeah,
like report, and it just seems so normal at the time. But
yes,
now you're like, oh my god, this was horrible.
yeah,
Like, so what a interesting,
time and
challenging
place.
time for them to be
Yeah.
coming out, so to speak.
Like it would be bad now with the internet, I'm sure, like if Instagram, those kind of things, but you can it's not as like mainstream acceptable to talk about people that way, or even like you're not even like I was thinking about this recently, and like you're not even it's not even it's people are trying to educate others like not to comment ever on anybody's body ever. And
Yeah,
that's a new thing.
that's in the last like 5 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's maybe a little generous, even.
Yeah. Yeah, that I mean, yeah. I hard to say cuz these last few years have gone by so fast, but
The
still,
last 2 years mean almost nothing at this point, time wise. But
yeah.
yeah,
It's such a foreign like that idea of like if someone looks good, tell them they look good, but it's like no.
no, but I mean,
You know what? No, but it's like the implication of like you didn't look good before. That
yeah,
kind of thing. That's hard for me to still like remember like it'll make them really happy if I tell them they look like they've lost some weight, but then and this is such a tangent at this point. but but then I'm like no, cuz then they're going to think, "Oh, before I must have been pretty fat," or what,
yeah,
that's an example. So anyways, our whole attitude about what's acceptable to say to somebody and what's like compassionate to say about somebody or to somebody is so different
mhm,
now from then. I can
yeah.
only imagine like I can only imagine like the terrible bold things people would have been saying about the family because they dared to put themselves on TV kind of thing.
It doesn't. It seems like it's not that long ago, and I mean, it's technically speaking in the span of things not that long ago,
No.
but so much has changed
Yeah.
in the last decade.
Media literacy has I want to say I was about to say that it's progressed so much, but it's almost not. That's
Less
another
than
conversation for another day. But
kind of in some ways, maybe not in others. I don't know.
yeah. So I don't know. It's a real like interesting time and place and circumstances for this occasion. And knowing that these kids are now adults too makes it interesting. I would love to know what their experience was if they have maybe it went right over some of their heads. Like I could see that too. But
I think, and maybe that's something that they're more um kind of, what is the word I'm looking at? Like thinking about now, like kind of going back and considering a bit more now, like that they're older, that they can kind of reflect on it a little bit more
yeah,
than at the time. Like,
that's yeah. I was thinking that too,
yeah,
and I was kind of like maybe at the time they weren't even processing it all that much, but looking back, they could say, "Wow, that was kind of effed up," or not.
but they think of like, like Logan, who isn't on the show anymore, not really as much anymore, at least.
Uh-huh.
And kind of taking a step back and they're doing their own thing as adults, then maybe they do have a little bit of a distance to kind of reflect on it and see what it actually made them feel and how it affected them and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Goals. We'll put it out there in the universe. It'd be a great season to recap with one of the kids if you're out there if you want to talk to us.
Open invitation.
And that's kind of where we end, right? Is with all their kind of stances on how they feel about the choice to go public, and we're gonna go. I mean, this season is at least title wise action packed. I'm excited to even get into it.
Looks like a pretty solid season. I'm very excited to get into it and we start seeing some pretty big changes and stuff. So
Particularly, Wife 3 hits Sin City is what I'm looking forward to. I think.
Right. Oh, well, in next week's episode, I'm looking at free range browns.
Free range browns is a good one too. And the thumbnail is Cody on a horse, so can't wait.
So that doesn't entice ya. What will?
So I guess that kind of wraps up season 2, episode 1. We're
Mm-hmm.
back at it, back at the.
Right, and we've made it to season 2 of a podcast. So look at us go.
We've already had 3 specials. We've already done a season. Made some download progress overall. I mean, congrats to us. Thanks again to our listeners who tune in. Whether or not you watch the show, I appreciate you. And if you do watch the show and you watch ahead a little bit and have any thoughts, send them in and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any new shout outs this week that I can think of off the top of my head. But
no, because we've kind of been for the behind the scenes, we've been filming a little bit back to back here this week.
yeah.
So
Yep.
we haven't.
Oh yeah, our first double hitter. We got our first double hitter this week with episode 2 of the special airing. What would be tomorrow? What about will be last week for when this airs? So
Right.
yeah, we're a little all over the place, but I'm glad we could pull it off.
Yeah.
So all right, well, I think that's about it. Follow us on the Instagram. Email us podlygamistpod at gmail.com. That's all I got.
All right. Happy season 2.
Happy season 2.
Birthday, Truly.
Happy birthday, Truly.